Okay, so imagine this. Tomorrow is your absolute last day on Earth. The clock's ticking, ticking down. And in these final hours, a man feels this, well, this compulsion to confess everything.
That's the really chilling starting point for today's deep dive, isn't it?
It is. You, our listener, shared this incredible written account from a man who's literally staring down his own execution. So our mission today.
We need to try and unpack this dark journey.
Yeah.
How does someone go from, well, seemingly normal to committing these just horrific acts against his pet, even his wife?
The thing that jumps out right away is the contrast he sets up himself. He talks about his past, this natural goodness of soul, he calls it, a real love for animals, saying they're more reliable than people even.
Which is fascinating because we know, or we think we know, where this is all headed.
Yeah.
It creates this immediate tension, doesn't it, between how he saw himself or wanted to be seen and the awful things he did?
Exactly. He paints this almost perfect picture of his early marriage, him and his wife sharing this love for animals. He had birds, goldfish, a dog, a house full of pets.
And then there's Pluto, the cat.
Ah, Pluto, the remarkable black cat.
And it's not just, oh, we had a cat. The narrator really emphasizes the connection. Pluto was unusually large, totally black.
Right, and he makes a point of saying he was the only one who fed Pluto. The cat followed him everywhere, even tried to follow him out into the street.
It really speaks to a deep, profound bond there. Almost like a singular demotion, you could say, on both sides maybe. It sets the stage for how tragic the breakdown of that relationship becomes.
But then things start to change. Slowly, over years, there's this darkness creeping in.
Yeah, he talks about drinking heavily.
And becoming angry, losing his joy. It starts affecting his wife, the other animals.
But interestingly, not Pluto at first. He mentions that.
Yeah. What do you make of that? Pluto being kind of spared initially.
Well, it could highlight just how strong that initial bond was, Maybe Pluto was more resilient to the narrator's moods initially, but it also kind of underlines how insidious the whole decline was.
How so?
Because eventually, even that strongest connection, that bond with Pluto, it gets corrupted too. It suggests it wasn't just a sudden snap, but this gradual wearing away of his empathy, his love.
And then we get to the first really brutal act. He comes home drunk. He thinks Pluto is avoiding him. Maybe he was, maybe not.
Right, it's his perception.
And in this drunken fury, he grabs the cat, takes out a penknife, and just cuts out its eye.
Oof, it's horrific, sudden, savage.
And what's really unsettling is he says he was almost surprised at his own cruelty, his own wickedness, as he puts it. Does that ring true, do you think, that surprise?
That's a really good question. Is it genuine shock?
Yeah.
A flicker of the man he used to be, maybe, recognizing the horror?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it a way to distance himself, even in the confession?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't really me, it was something else taking over.
Because what happens next is, well, it suggests it wasn't just a one-off lapse.
Exactly. Pluto recovers, slowly, but is obviously terrified of him now. And instead of feeling remorse, the narrator feels anger.
Yeah.
Anger at the cat's fear.
Which is twisted.
Completely. And this is where he talks about that truly disturbing psychological shift, this perverse desire to do wrong just because it's wrong, questioning the very core of human impulses. It's a chilling look inside a mind that's really losing its moral bearings.
It just gets darker from there. He decides to kill Pluto.
In cold blood this time. No sudden rage, just a decision.
He takes a rope, ties it around the cat's neck, and hangs him in the cellar. Deliberately.
And he knows it's wrong. He acknowledges it. He even talks about tears in his eyes while doing it, a feeling of, like, eternal damnation.
It's that disconnect again. Knowing it's evil, but doing it anyway. What's going on there? Addiction. Madness.
It's likely a complex mix. The addiction, the alcohol, certainly seems to be eroding his judgment, his impulse control. But there's also this profound moral collapse happening. The part of him that understands right and wrong is still there, dimly perhaps, but it's completely overridden by these dark compulsions. It's deeply disturbed.
And then almost immediately after, the house burns down.
That same night, yeah. He and his wife barely escape.
And his first thought, not relief, not shock about losing everything, but
Pluto, that the fire is somehow the cat's revenge from beyond the grave.
It's such an irrational leap, isn't it? What does that tell us about his mental state then?
I think it shows a mind absolutely saturated with guilt, maybe paranoia starting. He can't face his own responsibility, so his mind creates this external supernatural explanation for the disaster. It's his guilt being projected outwards.
So time passes. Months. They're living somewhere else. He's in an inn.
And he sees another cat. A black cat.
Eerily similar to Pluto. Large, black.
And missing an eye. Exactly like Pluto after the attack.
It's incredibly unsettling. The innkeeper says he's never seen the cat before. And this new cat, it immediately takes a liking to the narrator, follows him home.
It's almost too perfect, too symbolic, right? Whether you read it as pure coincidence or something else, a manifestation of his guilt, maybe. It becomes this constant living reminder of what he did.
And the weird thing is, he says he didn't even notice the missing eye at first. How does that happen?
Denial. Maybe his mind was subconsciously trying to shield him from the obvious connection. But once he does notice, that's when the affection the cat shows him starts to feel wrong.
Yeah, he starts to dislike the cat intensely.
The cat's constant presence, its love, becomes a source of intense irritation, even torment for him. It fuels nightmares, paranoia. It's a powerful illustration of how guilt can twist everything, even affection, into something unbearable.
And this rising hatred leads to the next explosion of violence. They're in the cellar of their new place.
The cat trips him on the stairs. A simple accident.
But for him, it's the trigger. He snaps, grabs an axe this time, intends to kill the cat.
But his wife steps in, tries to stop him.
And in that split second, that blind rage, he turns the axe on her instead.
Kills her. Just like that.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
The violence just redirects itself onto the nearest person trying to intervene. It really makes you think about rage, doesn't it? How it just lashes out.
It's a devastating example of how that inner turmoil, that uncontrolled anger, just spills out and destroys everything.
Yeah.
The cat was the focus, but his wife became the tragic victim of this internal war he was losing. It really highlights the danger of letting that stuff fester.
His reaction afterwards is chillingly calm, almost pragmatic.
No panic, apparently. Just, what do I do now?
Concealment. He decides to wall her body up in the cellar. There's an old fireplace recess. He bricks it up, meticulously plasters it over.
And he feels satisfied with his work. Confident it's a perfect hiding place.
That detachment, it's profound, isn't it? What's left of his humanity at that point.
Very little, it seems. That cold calculation, the ability to compartmentalize murdering his wife and then carefully hiding the body, it suggests a complete moral and emotional shutdown. Self-preservation above all else. Remorse seems entirely absent.
But that confidence, that arrogance, it becomes his undoing. The police come asking about his missing wife.
And he's so sure of himself. He feels totally secure.
So secure that he walks them through the house, accompanies them during the search, even down into the cellar.
Playing the innocent, grieving husband, presumably.
But then this incredible moment of just sheer hubris. He starts talking about how well built the house is, praising the walls.
Oh, no.
And he takes his cane and taps on the wall, the exact spot where he hid his wife's body. Taps it, boasting about its strength.
Why? Why would he do that? It's almost like he wanted to be caught. It often happens in these cases, psychologically speaking. That unbearable weight of guilt, maybe. An unconscious desire for it all to be over. That boast could be seen as a subconscious slip, a way for the truth to finally break free.
And break free it does. In the most terrifying way possible. A sound comes from behind the wall.
Not a human sound, right?
No! He describes it as a cry, initially muffled, then swelling into this long, loud, inhuman scream.
Chilling. The police react immediately, of course.
They tear down the wall, the stones, the plaster, and there it is, the gruesome discovery, his wife's body already decaying.
That's not the final image.
No! The final, truly terrifying image, perched on the corpse's head.
Is the cat. The second cat, Pluto's double.
Its single eye blazing, its mouth wide open in what he perceives as this triumphant, vengeful shriek.
Wow, what an ending to the sequence of events. It just leaves you breathless. A powerful, unforgettable, horrifying image.
It really does. So we've traced this whole descent, haven't we? From a guy who claims he loved animals, maybe genuinely did once.
Right, to this violent double murderer. A path marked by, well, clearly alcohol, but also this deep, irrational anger. A complete breakdown. Maybe madness, maybe just confronting the absolute worst parts of himself.
So many themes to unpack here. Guilt, obviously. The destructive power of addiction is undeniable.
Absolutely. And the nature of cruelty itself. How it can start small, maybe, and escalate. And then there's that lingering question. Is it all psychological?
You mean the supernatural hints? The second cat appearing out of nowhere, missing an eye. That cry from the wall.
Exactly. The story leaves that door open, doesn't it? Is the narrator just unreliable, his mind playing tricks? Or is there something more uncanny going on, the past, literally, coming back to haunt him?
And that's something for you, the listener, to really mull over. Have you ever felt those moments, those sudden flashes of just irrationality where emotion completely takes over? What does this extreme story tell us about maybe our own potential for darkness, or at least the power of guilt?
How past actions can ripple outwards, how they can surface in really unexpected, maybe even terrifying ways.
So the big question we're left with, I suppose, is this. Was he purely a victim of his own collapsing mind, destroyed by drink and his own inner demons?
Or was there something else at work? Some force, maybe born from his own cruelty, returning in that cat on that wall to ensure his downfall. A kind of chilling final judgment.
It's definitely something that sticks with you long after you hear the story, makes you want to go back and look at it again, perhaps with these questions in mind.